All right, welcome to A2B Tracking web seminar series. Today's focus is specifically on UC Web product capability. Our session is entitled The Power of UC Web on Any Mobile Device. A2B Tracking has been developing mobile solutions to leverage the power of our cloud-based system for asset tracking in compliance. Today we have a couple of subject experts that are in this session that are going to take us through some of the historical context to that mobile capability and where we are today with the use of UC Web on really just virtually any mobile device. My name is Peter Collins. I'm the founder and CEO of A2B Tracking. And I have here, as I say, some subject experts. Kristen Manley joining us as our implementation engineer here at A2B. Welcome, Kristen.
Thank you.
And Bobby Peckham, one of our solutions engineer here at A2B, also very deeply embedded into the product management team here at A2B. Welcome, Bob.
Thanks for having me, Pete.
So I'm first going to take you through the agenda that we've laid out for you, starting with the background behind UC Web's innovative mobile computing. We'll take you through that journey so you know when we first started developing cloud-based mobile capability, what that looked like, and now up to where we are today. We'll then go through the driving need for mobility on any device. Why would you want to consider mobile as part of your solution for the way that you process and handle the data capture initiative for tracking of assets and achieving compliance? We'll then look at the role that barcode, IUID, and RFID technology play in each of these different mobile solution capabilities we'll be showing you today. We'll finish off with a product demonstration led by Bobby Peckham, and then we'll get into a live Q&A at the very end. So let's begin. A little bit about A2B Tracking. For those of you, although many of you are already existing UC Web users in the cloud using the system day in and day out, but a recap of our background and experience. We really are the pioneers of military-grade, enterprise-class solutions to identify, mark, track, and report critical assets for over 20 years. This is what we live, eat, and breathe every single day, and we provide the best solutions on the market to achieve that capability. We do this by designing very innovative cloud-based asset tracking and data management solutions. And that solution is packaged in a system we call UC Web, with our advanced barcode and RFID technologies already pre-integrated to the system. And we're going to show some of that and demonstrate that for you here today. We've also achieved over 7 million DoD assets marked and processed throughout the world with A2B tracking software, which comprises up almost a quarter of all of the IUIDs and assets that are registered or reported to the IUID registry. At A2B, we have field teams at the ready to mobilize to put in this infrastructure of auto ID, including marking of assets and providing you that clean bill of health in terms of your asset existence and completeness to the record sets you may have in existence today. But our real goal here is really to turn physical world data into item unique data that can be tracked, it can be inventoried, it can be audited, and also reported, of course, to internal systems and government systems in order to meet those audit obligations. So to begin with, we want to discuss the journey that we've been on since UC Web in its inception has begun back in the early 2000s, in the 2005 timeframe, and how it's progressed through today. And what I'm going to do is ask Bob to weigh in here and tell us a little bit about what we're looking at with the different mobile solution options.
Sure, thanks, Pete. Well, we're looking through the different stages of UC Web Mobile over the time here at A2B. The first item we're looking at is an Intermec handheld device running our UC mobile application, which was essentially for marketing data capture or IUID compliance only at the time. You'd install our UC web mobile application on the device, and you would use the onboard scanner and go scanning away, scanning existing property that's tagged, or you might be manufacturing items for the first time to deliver to the government. You wanted to scan those labels into your system after they were manufactured. That device is used online and offline, so you can also download data from UC Web, put it on the device, and work in more secure or more remote locations that didn't have Wi-Fi access. Number two is a similar feel. However, it has the ability, we've tapped into the ability of reading RFID tags on assets now, as you can see on that cone, and I have a device right here with me, so you can see it from a different perspective. This is a Motorola device used for RFID asset tracking, but also runs the UC mobile application for 1D and 2D tracking as well. So you can do your IUID compliance, your general asset tracking using barcode or RFID. RFID, of course, being a great time saver. Talk a little bit about that down the road here. Those devices, as we call them, are industrial because they've got real thick kind of rubber wraps around them, used for manufacturing floors, or those DoD environments that we know are tough environments with lots of equipment and machinery around, and something that could be dropped. Well, these have all the IP test ratings and mil standard ratings to protect against damage.
Yeah, certainly warehouses or even the field and being outdoors too.
That's right. Yep. When you're working in the rain, I know we've had lots of marketing data capture projects for IUID compliance where we were working in the rain with these devices, and they really hold up well. Now, number 3 and 4, those are, as we call, the newer school platforms, and newer school, smartphones, using your smartphones to track IUID compliance or asset tracking, or using a tablet like identified in number 4. That's a great ruggedized tablet. It's like an Android tablet or an iPad or a Surface tablet. However, it's got that that hard body built into it so that it can be rugged as well for all these tough environments. Number 4 actually has a built-in scanner, so there's no Bluetooth scanners as shown in number 3. However, you could use it in combination with the Bluetooth, with the built-in scanner on that tablet, because as we know in the real world, you're kind of bending down and getting over things, and sometimes just going up to an item and having the tag right there isn't the case. So great combination with this little guy here in that tablet. But just to expand upon number 3, that device is a Samsung device, as shown here. It's running our UC Web application optimized for this device, and that's what you're going to see in a demonstration shortly. And I have a Bluetooth socket scanner, real tiny guy here, but really powerful device paired up with that device, so I can scan my IUID marks, or I can do my inventories on my assets, whether it's 1D or 2D barcoded. But number 3 is great. It's something that you always have with you. So why not utilize it as a part of the business in getting all your assets inventoried and IUIDs tracked and recorded in your system. Now, number 3.
Go ahead,
yep.
Bob.
Number 3 and 4 are connected. They're cloud-based, so you're actively viewing a cloud site, your UID comply site. So you do need online capability for that, whereas 1 and 2 are online and offline. Those are made more for the locations that don't have Wi-Fi access, as I mentioned earlier.
That's a good point. And the one thing I was going to point out is that of these different combinations of technologies, mobile and then scanning capabilities, really there's no one better than another. There are progressions certainly over time, and the power of these more consumer-driven platforms like Android and Windows and iOS, really are creating tremendous options for people who need mobility. But know that all of these technologies are in use in support of UC Web today, right? So it might depend upon your own needs or uses that will dictate which device you may want to choose, right?
That's right, great point. I mean, as someone who manages assets here at A2B, as you know, Pete, sometimes I'm using my phone to do our inventories, other times I'm walking around with my RFID or my rugged mobile, and sometimes I'm on my tablet here. So it's just great to have them all working together.
So we're going to move on and may come back actually to this particular slide, but I'm going to ask Kristen for you to comment specifically. Really, let's step back for a moment and just talk about why someone would want to use a mobile computer to drive that need for mobility and what's happening in the workforce, the way people are interacting with UC Web that would drive that need.
Right. Okay. So if you think about it in the real world, you really can't do all of your work just behind your computer, especially when it comes to asset tracking, doing inventories, things like that. Definitely best thing to be able to do is to be mobile and to have a device where you can walk around with that and just simply scan a barcode and be able to do an inventory, reconcile that inventory, and perform most of your job just away from your desk. So, you know, some of the biggest things about the need for mobility, accuracy and time saving. Those are two huge factors. Accuracy especially. If you think about it, if you're going around and doing asset tracking, inventories, even commissioning assets, and you're walking around with a clipboard and a pen and a paper, so hard to be accurate and to make sure that you have all the information that you need is complete, you're not making any mistakes, and then having to go back to your desk and retyping in all that information. So hard to get it right on the first try. And with mobility, you're able to do that a lot easier. So, and also, if you think about your assets, they may be in a warehouse, they may be in a test lab, in places that, you know, it's just, they're kind of scattered about, and you're not able to do all the work that you need to do from behind your computer. It's best to do it when you're right in front of that asset. So, you know, again, these mobile devices are great for that. And so let's just take a look at this list that we have. Great points in why you would really want to have a mobile device. So first off, asset commissioning. That's really adding an asset to your database. And with barcode, makes it so much easier than having to do that from behind your desk, you know, doing a lot of data entry, of course, time consuming, prone to error. So commissioning assets, very easy, very quick to do with a barcode and your mobile device. Also, paperless cycle counting, doing asset tracking and inventories, very, very easy to do, again, with a mobile device. Simply walking around and scanning, not having to type in anything, not having to write down anything or record things. Very easy, quick to do with just that mobile device. And again, we have the number of different devices, as you saw on the previous slide, that has that capability. Equipment, material, assignments to locations and custodians. Again, another big factor in asset tracking. To be able to, in your mobile device, just assign a location or assign a custodian to an asset and scan the barcode, is that simple. Just to put in those two pieces of information and keep going. And again, you're always knowing who's in possession of an item and where the location of that item is, and you can easily switch a location, switch a custodian very quickly on the mobile scan, and boom, you're done. So great factor for your mobiles with that. Also, validation. So your mobile devices has the capability of validating a barcode or a UID. So if you have MIL Standard 130 compliance that you need to adhere by, what that mobile is doing is once you scan it, it will automatically do a validation for you. So it will make sure that all the syntax that's within that barcode is complete, it's correct, and you're not having to worry about whether your UIDs are valid or not. So great feature with those. Again, as I've already mentioned, just having to do your inventories or any kind of asset tracking, commissioning assets can be very, very time consuming. And doing that with just a clipboard, pen and paper makes it so difficult to do and so time consuming that you don't want to do that with just a pen and paper. You want to do that with a barcode scanner because it's a lot quicker for you, and you're not making a lot of mistakes. You're standing there in front of the item. You can simply scan that barcode, input a couple of pieces of information. At least you're right in front of the item, and you can look at the serial number. You can look at the part number and any kind of additional information that you need to note about it. Very easy to do with the mobile, and you can quickly move on to the next one and not have to go back to your desk and re-record all that information. And then lastly,
oh, I'm sorry, Kristen. I was also going to note that, a lot of the programs we support are also very distributed, right? And as such, you have people who are maybe managing equipment from a centralized area, meaning the record set, but yet the assets are all over the place. Right? They're in other locations where you might actually have only a couple of minimal staff that are supporting it. So mobility now allows them to be able to perform inventory and asset tracking in some of these more distributed remote locations.
Exactly.
And maybe I just sort of stole the thunder of your last bullet there. I apologize.
No, that's fine. I mean, it makes it's a great point, because if you think about it, and we've had our own plenty of marking and data capture teams that travel all over the world, and they're using these barcode scanners, and just like the one that you're seeing in that picture there, can't imagine them doing their job without that. It makes things so much more efficient, so much quicker, and they're not making mistakes with those. So definitely that's the way to go, especially if you're working remotely and you don't have the capability of being behind your desk all the time.
Bob, do you have any particular comments on this?
No, just the point of just getting up out of the seat and, taking all these devices and all these capabilities we have and utilizing them. Especially, the one point of mobility that I like is it gets you out of the office. It gets you out of your seat. Especially with RFID, it turns into a game of sort when you're scanning away tags, or you're using your mobile phone, which you already have out and you're already using it throughout the day anyway. So it's just a great compliment to UC Web to be able to do this stuff on the go.
And if I may, it's also about solving the problem right in front of the asset itself, or in front of the item. Because a lot of times you come across, well, man, that data does not look right, or a discrepancy in the database, or some set of records. And you don't have to go out, assess the problem, mark it down, go back, re-record. It'll let you actually address that problem right there at the moment in time in front of the asset, correct it, be done with it, move on to the next thing, part of your day, right?
That's right.
So the efficiencies are really tremendous. And I'll tell you that, barcode and RFID, both provide significant gains to this whole data capture and data accuracy, to the tune of what we often refer to with barcode itself for tracking these kinds of assets in these kind of environments, about a 10-to-1 return. So if you're performing, say, a cycle count that ordinarily takes about 10 hours with a clipboard and a pencil, you can achieve that same process with that heightened level of accuracy in about an hour. So this is a huge savings, time savings. And then on top of it, if you introduce RFID to that same kind of environment, you know, our numbers tell us you're going to get about a 30-to-1 return on the amount of time. So imagine cycle counting taking 30 hours. Now you can actually reduce that down to an hour or two. I mean, talking about real savings on time and resources there, and improving your accuracy at the same time.
And when we're managing our own assets here at A2B, mentioning I use RFID sometimes, that's because I don't have to climb high in our server racks to reach a switch or take things down and get it all situated before I start scanning barcodes one at a time. I can walk in a location after I set my location, scan away, and touch 100 items in a fraction of a minute, you know, not even. So RFID alone, I know we're talking straight mobile here, but RFID alone is just so much powerful when you couple it up with mobility.
Yeah, great point.